That's what I get to hear, and it's the best. So welcome. Thanks so much for being here today. Our first piece on the program was written a really long time ago, if you take a look at all those dates. And it was written by Giovanni Gabrielli. He was the master composer at St. Mark's Cathedral in Italy, and he had the most amazing space to write in. It was right around the time that wind instruments were beginning to advance. The technology was beginning to increase. They were beginning to add more instruments, more colors, and they used to perform in families, which was called a consort, and it would be a consort, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, of a single instrument. And each of those consorts would play in this beautiful space in the cathedral, and they had balconies on either side of the space, and they would put one half of the group here and one half of the group here, and they would play to each other. And you'd get the feeling of being in the center of the sound coming from either side and surrounding you at the same time. And because the acoustics in this space was so incredible, they didn't have amplification like we do today. They didn't need it because it was so perfectly built for making music and for sound. And so Gabrielli was important because he was one of the first persons to really begin to experiment with different instrumentations. Those were called broken consorts. Some of the instruments didn't tune very well. Some of them didn't project very well, and so they started messing around with different groupings of instruments and started to find a new color and a new power. He was also one of the first persons to write the music in an actual score, and one of the first persons to include dynamics in his music. And so that was revolutionary at the time. So this first piece, Canzone Primi Toni, is by Gabrielli, and you're going to get the experience of feeling that sense a little bit of the antiphonal speaking back and forth to each other. The second piece on the program, Cathedrals by Catherine Southfelder, it uses this material from the canzone as kind of the foundational melodic material. But it's, as you can see, it was written much, much later than the original canzone. And so she has she mixes in more modern sounds. She uses more effects as far as how each of the families of instruments speaks to each other. And as you can see, we have a very different setup for the woodwinds than we normally do. Usually we're spread out and not stacked in the middle. And so she uses the woodwinds in a different way than she uses the brass and the percussion. So I hope that you enjoy both of these pieces. We will take a little break between the Gabrielli and the cathedrals, take a quick pitch, and then we'll go on and perform both the canzone and cathedrals for you today. Enjoy. So we need to do a very quick switch. We've got it down to 3 minutes. It'll be great. Please talk amongst yourselves.
everybody. My name is Evan McCormick. I'm one of the grad students here. I'm studying, MA in teaching, so hopefully going to get my music teaching license. So I get the fun opportunity and the pleasure to work with these students every week. We are performing this next piece, Light Descending by Kevin Polking. He wrote this piece in 2023, and I'm going to share his notes as he writes it really well, better than I could word it. Light Descending draws its inspiration from the counterintuitive idea that as we move downward, away from the sunlight, the world can become an even more magnificent place. The music begins in full light with a grandioso introduction, representing the more obvious beauty that we can see in every day. The work is anchored by an eighth note ostinato, which is intentionally ambiguous as to whether it is ascending or descending, representing that physically moving lower does not necessarily mean the same emotional response. Towards the end of the work, the grandioso from the introduction returns as if to show that if we are willing to find it, the beauty above can be found below. So, I hope you enjoy.
while they're getting settled. The next piece on our program, Lincolnshire Posy, is one of the core works written for wind band. It was originally written in 1937, but was not actually performed again until 1987. Unfortunately, what ended up happening were there were mistakes in the score. It was a rough and rushed job to get it ready for the premiere. Percy Granger had been invited by the American Bandmasters Association to premiere this piece at their convention. And parts were coming in from overseas. He was living in, and they were, he wasn't here in the U.S. yet. He was about to come to the U.S., and he was writing the music as fast as he could, and he was getting it to them as fast as he could. And he was actually even revising parts while it was on the stands while they were doing their dress rehearsals. And so when they did the performance, it did not go over very well. And it wasn't until 1987, around that time, that Frederick Fennell gathered all of the original parts that he had put together. He grabbed the original score, he got everything together, removed all of the mistakes, got it cleaned up, and provided us with a full and valid score to be able to perform today. So it was re-premiered in 1987. We'll be performing 4 of the 6 movements today. We'll be doing 1, 2, 5, and 6, and we'll provide a little bit of an introduction to you. What I will tell you is that each of the movements, he had traveled around England on his bicycle with a wax cylinder phonograph on the back of the bicycle, and he traveled from place to place in the Lincolnshire area, meeting up with various singers, folk singers in the area, and they were regular humans, regular everyday humans. They weren't operatic singers or professional singers in any way, and he was able to record each one of those singers on these wax cylinders. And they were able to preserve them enough that we now, if you even go online, you can listen to the original recordings as they originally were recorded. And each one of these sweet little pieces he called a posy, and a posy was a little flower. And when you put all the little flowers together, you get the posy that you might give a loved one or give to a special someone or something. And so he called this his Lincolnshire posy. His posy of little folk songs that he put together. And what he did differently from what most composers do is he based this piece on how the folk singers sang it, not how it was perfectly as handed down from person to person. So that person might have perhaps had an ale or a lager while they were singing. They may have no sense of rhythm. They may be taking great liberties with even some of the words. And so it's a little bit different than you might expect. It's not just a straightforward set of folk songs. There are some surprises that are built in, some Grangerisms, if you will. And we'll also have some additional information for each of the movements as we go along. But first we're going to take some pitch, and then we'll go.
provide a little bit of, I would say, color commentary to each of the pieces. This first movement is actually two separate folk songs, Lisbon and the Duke of Marlborough. This piece marks two stories played together as a melody and countermelody. The beginning of the piece, with the muted trumpets, bassoons, and horns, is reminiscent of the actual wax cylinders collected by Granger. Because of how similar Lisbon and the Duke of Marlborough are to later movements, this movement is a good introduction to the character of the piece. Our next piece, Horkstow Grange, is about two men who lived in a countryside known as Horkstow Grange. A wagon driver, Steel-Eye Span, worked for John Bolin in less than ideal circumstances. Steel-Eye decided to stand up to Bolin in the marketplace one day and was met with violence, while the people in the marketplace stood by to watch. This song is from the perspective of Steel-Eye Span himself, lamenting his position and wishing the onlookers would do anything to help. is actually based on the same person as the Duke of Marlborough. It's a war song in the version. Oh my goodness. What is that? It's a war song, and the version played here is heavily influenced by the unique singer recorded by Granger, Mr. George Ray. It includes free time, sections of music not conducted by tempo, but only by rhythm. It is a proud song about a great leader who looked after the welfare of his soldiers, prompting his celebration with the song. The Lost Lady Found, unlike the others, is a dance song from the days when voices, rather than instruments, held village dancers together. Also unusual is it was collected by Lucy Broadwood, who collected it from her own family's nurse, who collected it from an old cook, which just goes to show how these folk songs can be passed down from generation to generation, and how music can transcend time to bring people together.
program is actually written by a Minnesota composer. I claim him as Minnesotan. He's a St. Olaf grad, quite a few years after I did, but this is part of a larger project, the fourth movement, of a really fantastic suite. And it is exactly what it's intended by its name, play. It sets up this wonderful groove and just has fun all the way to the end. You'll find that there's a little bit of a hymn built in there, "O come thou fount of every blessing." Enjoy. came to me as been pondering this program and thinking about what's happening in our world and thinking about how we navigate. And darkness and light are a part of our lives. Frequently, we navigate. Things go poorly, something terrible happens, something good comes out of it. The light begins to shine through. Something beautiful happens, and we sparkle, we come to life, we shine. So this next piece encompasses everything that we've tried to bring forward today. All that we are as human beings, all that we are as people navigating this world, all the challenges that we experience, and how we come out on the other side. This piece has symbolism in it, direct symbolism, obvious symbolism. Our angel is in the up high above. You're going to see actual instruments that create the sense, the circle of the halo. You're going to hear immediately after the singer finishes, you're going to hear the main theme that represents the darkness that emerges through. And then you're going to hear the battle that ensues throughout, where light emerges and darkness takes over. Light takes over from darkness. And at the end, it feels as if all is perfect and well in the world, and then there's just that little bit of that comes in at the very ending. And so this is a journey. Please travel this journey with us. Angels in the Architecture by Frank Kelly.